video of the Israeli government holding a private convention here in the United States. One of the people in attendance at this secret meeting was Judith Varney Shorer. She's a former Israeli consul general who was operating out of Atlanta. She was one of the main people saying that the biggest problem that they had was young black people in the United States. But don't worry, they've got some black leaders on the payroll.
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community.
This was an Israeli government official who was saying this, not some low-level operative or some rogue member of their diplomatic corps. This was a senior member of their administrative government who was saying this on American soil. Their biggest problem wasn't Hamas or Hezbollah or the Palestinian Authority or Syria or even Iran. She said that Israel's biggest problem was young black people in the United States.
So just to give a little bit of context to what you're hearing, you're listening to Judith Varney Shorer, an Israeli consul general in Atlanta. And she says, quote, the major problem with Israel is the young generation of the black community. I'm going to say that again. How are our friends and allies in Israel saying their consul, this is a government official, why would she say, quote, the major problem with Israel is with the young generation of the black community? What in the world is really going on?
And take this home with you. The Jewish representative of Israel that is in Atlanta said that the greatest difficulty that Israel has is with young black Americans. What does Israel have to fear about young black Americans? Because they refuse to be controlled by the forces that control their fathers and their grandfathers. That is over. So I say to Israel, leave the black youth alone. Don't come into our community trying to kill us to satisfy your bloodlust.
Hello and what's up, good people? I hope you're doing great from wherever you're watching this video from, and welcome back for another video. Now, sometimes I sit here and wonder if the world has ever been such politically charged like it is today, because you look everywhere, you look around and it's just political chaos, political wars, political aggressions. It's just so politically chaotic, and I wonder if we have a direction as humanity at this, if the situation is like it is. And the clip I just played at the beginning of this video is an older clip of an Israeli official who comes out to say flat out that one of Israel's biggest problem are the young black people of America. And you heard that, yeah? And now think about it. The problem of Israel is not a foreign government, it's not the army, it's not Hamas, it's not the Palestinians, it's not their neighbors in the Middle East, but black youth in America. And why is it so? This might be an older clip, but I love sometimes to analytically look at these clips, because if you know what happened yesterday, you can tell why things are as they are today. And you could even be able to, foretell what's going to happen tomorrow, because choices of today are the consequences of tomorrow. So, and the only reason why I could, the only reason I could find why the black youth in America, specifically young black people, could be Israel's biggest problem is maybe because they're daring to ask the hard questions, the uncomfortable questions. Where is their tax going? Why is America funding Israel every year in the billions? And they're asking whether America should keep funding the kind of oppression that's going on with the Israel and Palestine issue. Some of America's reacted, and let me share some of them and we'll be back and look deeper into this.
I want to know what type of dirt Israel has in America. Because if you didn't know, they just passed a bill for American taxpayers, which is me and you, to pay for Israeli soldiers, to pay for their retirements. And they're going to be getting more than American vets, than American soldiers. Yes, you heard that right. Now, this video is probably going to get 0 views because every time I talk about that nation, all of a sudden I'm getting 10 views when other videos when I'm talking about absolutely fucking nothing, I could get 1 million. So, I'm going to ask a question. What kind of dirt does Israel have in America while we're here bending down to their very will? I want to know. Plus, let's be honest here. Israel isn't even a real country. The real Jews, I'm not even going to say anything. And I'm just going to leave it there. I want an answer. Does anyone have an answer as to what kind of dirt Israel has in America?
This is some insane news and not enough of y'all talking about it for me.
The Israel Ministry of Diaspora Affairs specifically organized and targeted black politicians to sway their support for Israel. And this was all in a paid digital campaign that spent more than $2 million on the whole operation. They established fake news websites with hundreds of fake bot accounts on X, Instagram, and Facebook just to push this pro-Israeli rhetoric.
Then not only was this foreign government using American social media platforms to target black American politicians, here's what they had to say about old regular everyday black folks.
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. Says that the major problem that Israel has is the younger generation of the black community, and then turned around and tried to pay the black politicians within our community millions of dollars to push policy at the same time being able to criminalize our solidarity and coalition building with Palestine. Like this article stated, man, Israel ran an operation that interferes with U.S. politics. It's extremely irresponsible and it's amateurish and anti-democratic, especially when you criminalize a particular young generation of the community and then try to pay the leaders of that community to build legislation for you. It's nasty.
So across the pro-Israel lobby money that has been spending tens of millions of dollars across the board to take out, defeat, and humiliate progressive politicians, also created this whole entire bot operation as well.
Can you imagine the headlines if a Muslim majority country did this?
Although Meta said that this scheme was sloppy and ineffective, it really makes you think, how much good could we have done in America if we used this money on the people?
By now, I think we've all seen this video circulating on TikTok with that headline, but I want to tell y'all what that's about. Movement for Black Lives is a policy platform that's not the same thing as Black Lives Matter, although they focus on the same issues: anti-racism, reparations for Black people, abolishing the death penalty, free college tuition for everyone in the United States. In 2016, they also presented a 40 policy proposal on boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning Israel for the war crimes and genocide against the Palestinians. This upset a lot of American Jewish citizens who feel like they have fought with Black Lives Matter, and they did not think that the Palestinian struggle and the Black struggle in America should be looked at as synonymous or even remotely anywhere near the same. It also upset parliament members of the Israeli government. And so they started to see that a lot of young Black college students were supporting BDS after Black Lives Matter also signed on to the BDS policy. So in 2020, they decided to do a convention and bring together 40 Black leaders within the United States to try and spread loyalty to Israel and to detour young Black college students from boycotting Israel. The boycotting and divesting included not spending money with businesses that are loyal to Israel, not supporting artists who are loyal to Israel, as well as not investing in stocks, getting companies to not invest in stocks and not supporting the companies that invest in stocks that are loyal to Israel. Now, due to the growing support of the BDS policy, Benjamin Netanyahu, all of 2020, worked with politicians in the United States to pass a law that says that you cannot boycott Israel or hire any employee who will boycott Israel if you take government contract funding or venture funding from certain venture capitalists. This is why we see a lot of people who have spoken out in pro-Palestinian comments on their social media being fired from their jobs, because a lot of these companies are government contractors and they've taken government funds and they are bound by that law. This is also why we see some artists not speaking out or have spoken out as pro-Israel. This meeting is to combat any type of resistance that we do here in the United States in support of the Palestinians. And a lot of young Black college students have signed on to the BDS cause.
You know, I wonder why Israel's biggest problem is the young generation of the Black community when we're all the way over here. We don't have no land. We don't have no communities. We don't have no commodities. We don't have any resources. We don't have any bombs. We don't have any nuclear weapons. We don't have any missiles. You know, we don't have any military. You know, why would we be the biggest threat? Wouldn't the biggest threat be the people you're actually in war with? What do we have to do with anything y'all got going on? Could it be that the conspiracies about identity theft are true? Perhaps. Because I doubt that, you know, a lie would be a big threat to an entire country. I don't think a lie would. But what I think is the biggest threat is that the truth is being revealed and the world knows that.
I think another thing that frustrates me about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in terms of the humanity of Palestinian people is that I understand decolonization as a process. I am a Black American. My parents are also Jamaican and they immigrated to the US. So my parents and their culture experienced both enslavement and colonization. And so when I go back to Jamaica and I see tourism being one of the few industries that can bolster the economy, when I see white people going in and extracting their good times and their fun and leaving without any clear understanding of what the socio-political environment there, when I see the fact that brain drain is one of the only possibilities for people to really leave and have a viable life in all these ways that isn't possible in Jamaica, when I look at the ways that the system of slavery in the United States of America has progressed into police and the military, and to see again and again and again how colonization on a historical level encourages people to be complicit. If you are a part of a colonial nation or colonial entity and you are a citizen of that entity or that nation, you benefit from colonization. And so to see so many, especially Americans, getting online, talking about we need to create space for ourselves, we need to protect our mental health, you benefit from the genocide of Palestinians. You benefit from all these various forms of colonization that the U.S. has not only mastered, that the U.S. has not only aided in, but the U.S. is currently propping up and supporting. And so my question for you is, do you even know what colonization is? Do you even know what it means to embody and enact and perpetuate a colonial ideology? Because the first step of that is to trust a state when they dehumanize an entire population of people and bomb them and take their resources and lock their kids away and put them in jail and bomb their hospitals, stop their doctors from operating. When you relegate an entire group of people to futurelessness, that is a process of colonization. That's a process of genocide.
I have seen a couple videos addressing this online and I was just like, let's be part of the conversation. There is a rhetoric and a narrative going on right now that there are a group of Black aid workers who managed to get themselves into Gaza, which is currently being bombed and heavily sieged and is blockaded, right? They managed to get in to provide aid and they were racially abused. Let's put our thinking caps on here for a second. Let's use these, right? Do you actually believe that, or were you just looking for an excuse to be like, okay, well, I don't have to care about them anymore because they're racist? Because once you start weaponizing that as Black people, they stop taking us seriously. They already don't take us seriously. And what? Like, Palestinians rode so hard for Black people back in 2020 when the rest of the world was telling us that we still don't deserve anything. They taught us how to circumvent tear gas, how to avoid... Like, what? And look, you don't have to be Muslim to support Palestine. There are Black Palestinians that live in that country that are having everything ripped apart from them. So if you're so pro-Black, what about them? What about them?
Yesterday, I made a video about how I was shocked to see so many Black Christians in support of Israel, especially during this time. That video kind of blew up and it led me down the rabbit hole of learning what Christian Zionism is. And like, please just buckle up. In that video, I mentioned that the person I was DMing with said that essentially what is going on in regards to Israeli occupation of Palestine is a biblical thing. That essentially based on their faith, they supported the occupation. Later in that conversation, they said, I am not pro-Israeli government, I am pro-Zionism. Christian Zionism specifically. The way that they had phrased it, I thought they were saying that we as Christians are descendants of Israel and that it is our birthright to move there. But after doing some more research, I found out that Christian Zionism is essentially the ideology that praises Jewish return to the Holy Land, which is Israel. They also believe that the establishment of the nation of Israel in 1941 was a signal that the second coming was upon us, and that the establishment of the nation state of Israel was a prophecy from the Bible that was being fulfilled in real time. This is also called Jewish sovereignty, and it just supports the belief that the Holy Land, Israel, is the home of Jewish people, and that it is God's will for Jewish people to return home so that Jesus will come back. But there's kind of this caveat there that those Jewish people are supposed to convert to Christianity so that they will be saved and be beamed up to heaven, and that if they do not convert, they will be damned to hell. Now that explanation is extremely paraphrased, and like if I missed a detail, please let me know in the comments below, but that is generally what I understand to be Christian Zionism. That ideology seems to be fueling the support for Israeli occupation, as they believe that this is just the fulfillment of the word of God. The issue with that, in my view, is that if you believe that your religious text and your God and your religion is supreme, is law, is infallible, and you think that everyone outside of that is damned to hell, it emboldens you to go out and evangelize or spread the good news. It emboldens you to go out and try to change people's heart or save souls, which is essentially converting. And it makes you less likely to see the humanity in the people that you think are already damned to hell, which is why on my feed and my timeline in my life, all the Christians that I saw posting about what is going on in Gaza were only speaking from the Israeli perspective. Like, seeking for a place, in particular a nation state, to be religiously homogenous is very dangerous. And it's essentially the basis of what we see happening with missionary work, right? Back in the day, it was like convert or die. And in a modern sense, it's like convert or we won't build the well where you live. And this person also said that this is not political for me. This is spiritual. This is biblical. But the issue is that your religion is now intertwined with the political. And when that happens, you have policies put in place and efforts put in place that are going to effectively wipe out anyone that is not a part of that dominant religion. When you consume your religion from an uncritical and an anti-intellectual lens, it will have you out here supporting your oppressor, supporting creepy ass pastors, forgiving abuse, atrocities, war crimes, because you feel like you stand in all business. You feel like you are literally standing on the word of God, which is law. And although it has been astutely pointed out that religion is being used as like an excuse to carry out ethnic cleansing, I have a lot of evangelicals in the States that are supporting that because they think they are supporting the will of God. Just a side note, why is God always whispering in y'all's ear and telling y'all this land belongs to you, this people belongs to you, this group does not deserve to be there, instead of whispering like the cure to cancer in your ear? Okay, like what? I also think we need to understand the difference between theory and reality. Like this person was saying, like, I support the theory, the biblical implication of Israel. Like, you can't just say it's spiritual and biblical when in reality, those principles and that ideology is being used to carry out war crimes. Like, we talk about this in political science all the time. There's a theory of a policy, but when that theory is applied, sometimes you see the holes in that policy. You see that some people are being discriminated under that policy, and then you go back and you try to rework it. But if you're never being critical to begin with because of like indoctrination or brainwashing or whatever, it's hard to push back against it, and it's hard hard to even be receptive to receiving information outside of what you deem to be the capital T truth. And this entrenched indoctrination has me thinking of missionary work. It has me thinking of the seasoning process when it came to the transatlantic slave trade. It has me thinking of residential schools and the cultural cleansing that happened with the Native American population, effectively stripping an indigenous group of their rights, of their cultural markers, of their spiritual practices, and attempts to make them a part of this homogenous ideology or this homogenous culture. I know that there's so much new information that we are learning. There's misinformation, disinformation. There's stuff that may be true that we don't want to accept as true. But what I hope you take away from this video is this: if devoutly following your God and your religion leads you to supporting a super oppressive colonial state and like mass atrocities, it might be time to take an introspective look within and try to deeply understand what you believe and why. If devoutly serving your God and your religion leaves you in a place where you see brutality, just like unspeakable crimes being enacted on one group of people, and you just like don't flinch, or you think that this is just God's will, you need to take a step back and really examine what you believe and why.
Siding with the oppressors is crazy, especially as a Black person. And it makes me so sad seeing a lot of Black people supporting Israel and what they're doing in the genocide and the ethnic cleansing that they're doing to Palestinians, or even just staying neutral about the whole thing. It's so frustrating. It's so fucking sad seeing this happen. What is going on right now in Gaza, in Palestine, is as much our fight as it is their fight. Palestinians stuck by us when it came to Black Lives Matter. They were helping us with how to combat the police, because United States police officers get trained in Israel. They learn how to brutalize Black and brown people. And then they come back to the States and they do these practices that they're learning in Israel. How could you support something like that? Over 50,000 Jewish Ethiopians went to Israel, and because they did not want Black Jewish individuals to be born, they decided to give contraceptions without consent to Black women so they could not reproduce. And this is what you support. Siding with the oppressor, I know what side you would have been on in the civil rights movement. I know what side you would have been on when it came to fighting for freedom in slavery. I know what side you would have been on when Harriet Tubman was trying to flee them slaves. You would have been a fucking snitch. You would have been a snitch. You would have stayed. You would not care about the lives of other people and the freedom of other people. And I also see where a lot of Black people will talk about religion into why they support Israel. The same religion that was given to you by the white man, that took your ancestors from Africa, brought you over here, put you in slavery for 400 years, fed you Christianity, and a lot of Black people are still stuck in the shackles of Christianity to not look at the bigger picture. This is a religion that was fed to you by your oppressors that you still continue to practice and perpetuate still in our community. And I feel like a lot of it is holding us back because you're doing exactly what they want you to do. You are submitting, you're being docile, you're doing exactly what they want you to do. And it's sad. It's sad to see you not want to fight, you not want to speak up, you not want to stand for Black and brown people, for Palestinians. Because if they're going to do that to Palestinians, they would do that to us. They would do that to any Black and brown person in this country. And the fact that you're not standing up right now just shows a lot about who you are and your character and the lack of logic that you currently have. How could you justify a genocide? How could you justify an ethnic cleansing when we as Black people have felt a lot of this. Our ancestors have felt this in this country. And you're choosing to be on the side of the people that don't give a fuck about you.
The last thing I'm going to say on this topic, especially for black people, do not become lost in the sauce of anti-Semitism or Islamophobia when you start discussing this on antagonism between these two countries. Yes, I know that not all Israelis are Jewish, and I know that all Palestinians are not Muslim. However, when we start talking about Muslim population or Jewish populations in our community, especially out west, we know that these two identities are positioned as being exposable and disposable, and as a result, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia is so normalized, folks will be waddling in it, you see what I'm saying, and you don't even know it. With that being said, when you start discussing the concept of terrorism and proximity to people that are identified as Muslim or the Islamic religion, recognize that there is a legacy of Islamophobia there. You see what I'm saying? When you start talking about funding and how money is being spent in relationship to Jewish people, people start sliding into some anti-Semitism. You see what I'm saying? So make sure that you is not engaging in no anti-Semitism. And it don't mean you can't be critical of how much money or how much tax dollars is being sent over there to Israel. I know I just made a video about the historical legacy of black people and Palestinian people being in solidarity, but it doesn't erase the videos I've done in the past about when Kanye was on shenanigans and highlighting how black people and Jewish people have also been in coalition and solidarity and has a history of it. The last two things I'll say is, first, be very conscious about how the media is starting the bloodshed between these two states with the conflict with Hamas. It predates that. The second thing and last thing I'll say is, instead of coming to me as an expert on this topic, let's actually find Israeli, Palestinian, Muslim, Jewish followers, Jewish influencers and creators that, have a relationship and more experience and information to actually speak to what's going on. Education is elevation. I holler at y'all. Lastly, I know that what's going on in that Gaza Strip, you see, dates all the way back to before the biblical times. And I think there's a way for us to have compassion for the families that's burying loved ones in Palestine and in Israel.
Pro-Israeli people are losing the PR war and they know it. Listen to this.
This small group of activists, those who put on the TikTok, those who sent me anti-Semitic messages, those who sent others, are a small group with no decency.
That clip was from this meeting that was held this afternoon, so I'm going to give you guys a rundown of the highlights and the interesting things that they said.
This is a conference to see how they can better justify the mass murder of children and silence people who are against it.
That's just a great example of what we face. That one TikTok had 25,000 views. Don't worry. The narrative is just so outrageous, right? So you're talking about a situation where literally Hamas butchered children.
And that video was kind of a highlight of some of the ways that this new type of political organizing is taking place. So the Democratic Socialists of America, we've all heard of them at this point. They were the organization in New York that actually promoted the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas cheerful rally in Times Square the day after the terrorist attack. They are the group that helped get AOC elected, mostly made up of younger people. And there's a lot of energy and excitement and, colorful graphics and slogans and pie in the sky ideology.
Colorful graphics. Colorful graphics is what's drawing us in, not the fact that there is a genocide going on.
Almost parroting a Soviet-era propaganda. So through their really confident, exciting, colorful campaigns, worldwide organizational tool to demean Israel and diminish its standing in the world community, to compete and to run and win and defeat these far left extremists, especially those who are associated and promoting and using social media in particular to promote their anti-Semitism.
They're confused about why there are so many anti-Israeli activists now out of nowhere.
It seems like, though, we've lost ground, right? Let's just be honest, right?
Sure.
It seems like we've lost ground. There weren't socialists. You never had these anti-Israel activists to the same level, right? You've had
They call out Jewish Voices for Peace for being anti-Semitic.
Organizations, for example, Jewish Voices for Peace, right, where I would say up until a few weeks ago, they were flirting with anti-Semitism, and now they've gone full-on anti-Semitic, anti-Israel with a rally yesterday in Washington, D.C., where they're literally spreading propaganda that is.
They also just kept lying and lying about Hamas.
They've been proven false, where they're publicly saying that Israel bombed a hospital, which we actually know was not bombed by Israel, but was in fact bombed by terrorists. Literally cut the bellies of pregnant mothers open and then chop the heads of their babies off. It's barbaric. That's just inhumane. And this is what people are cheering.
They go on this rant about decency, and who's going to tell them that ethnic cleansing is not decent?
Need to organize. I know it sounds like a bad word. People affiliated with the left. Organize. Organize is not a bad word. The reality is that if we had everybody on this Zoom would spend 1 hour a week, we could control and retake the narrative. And that's what tonight is all about.
They want to learn how to make friends and allies like the DSA does.
How do we build relationships and allies, and how do we really make friends like the DSA does on the left?
And our focus is not as diverse as the DSA and the left is. Okay.
One of the big things I took away from this is how there's no unity on the pro-Israel side of things. Like, they are lacking unity, and that's a huge issue for them right now.
We should all be supporting each other so it becomes more communal. New York City is notorious for identity politics. I think that needs to stop. The DSA and the left wing understand that. They are diverse in their ethnicity, in their religious backgrounds, and that's the reason why their voices have been so much more amplified. The left is organized. And
he read one of the very anti-Semitic emails that was sent to him today and kind of alluded to pro-Palestinians as being these crazy, evil people.
In a respectful way, not like the email that we just got that said, you people are blankety blank, you're dirty Zionist pigs, we're stealing everyone's resources. This is what the crazies do, right? You know, I've never in my life have I ever gotten on an anti-Semitic or KKK or a Palestinian from the river to the sea protest and said, hey, you guys are terrible. Like, that's not a normal thing to do, right? What ends up happening is you have these really radical, crazy people who are engaged, and they hear from the crazies, but they don't hear from the normies. And the normies are the people out here who we need to hear from.
They go on to talk about liberal Twitter, so just listen to this.
What is going on here? Because when I log on to Twitter, it sounds like it's a one-sided discussion. But when you think about Twitter, Twitter represents only 23% of Americans are on Twitter. Only 23%. And of that 10%, of that 23%, basically messages 80% of the conversation. So 4% of Americans, 4% of Americans are controlling a narrative and telling you that's what's happening? What?
I saw this blood libel that was being spread by folks who had said that the Israelis had targeted a hospital. And the first thing I tweeted, I didn't even know the facts. I was like, Israel would never intentionally target a hospital, right? Like,
talk about that little time you take to be on social media and other things. The communist scare that happened in the 1950s, which feels like that right now. The rush to judgment, the lack of decency.
War is terrible. War is one thing, but there are rules of war. People die, and that's a horrible, horrible thing. And obviously, Israel's in a defensive war where they're defending themselves against Hamas, and they have to do that. But
this is a side note, but he kept saying this is PhD level politics.
This PhD level politics over here.
And all it was asking people to vote and contact their representatives. And those of us who are on the crazy radical left, that is just, you know, the go-to bare minimum. And then they go on to talk about the hostages and things like that. This is my biggest takeaway from this. They know that they are losing. They know that people are not buying their propaganda.
Now, after taking in those reactions from Americans, I got to ask myself the first question, why Black Americans? Why specifically, why Black Americans, and maybe why the young people of America? You know, America is not only a Black country. In fact, they are not even the majority, but why did they single out? And Black Americans, maybe because they have lived under systemic oppression, systemic racism for centuries, and they know what oppression feels like. So when they see what is happening in Palestine to Palestinians, the blockades, being displaced and being brutalized, the shelling, the bombing, I mean, they can resonate. It resonates. They can relate. So they connect Ferguson to Gaza, mass incarcerations to the military occupation in Gaza today. And that makes their voices powerful. because they speak from a lived experience. And that is what they are afraid about. They don't want people to speak about, people who can really give, a point of view from a lived experience of Zionism, of oppression. And another thing that's coming out for me is aligning with justice. Okay, so here is the key. It's not about being pro-Palestine. No, not really. It's not about being anti-Israel. It's about being pro-justice. Huh? And when I say this, young Americans are saying, why are billions of dollars being sent abroad to enforce occupations while maybe our own communities in Detroit, in Chicago, in Georgia, in Jackson don't even have maybe clean water, good schools, so it's not about choosing sides. I mean, it's just about consistency, justice, and morality, yeah? And maybe something else is fear is being exposed here. I feel like maybe you don't agree with my perspective, but I feel like there's some fear being exposed. So if an official sees young Black Americans as a problem, it tells something. Maybe it tells everything. The fear isn't military, it's moral authority. Those people that ask good questions, ask thoughtful questions. Because once Americans connect the dots with all that is happening, the old narrative simply will collapse. And with with that collapse, the U.S. support for Israel might obviously always become harder to justify. Okay, so they don't want you to ask the questions, so you don't get the answers and demand for answers because the story that they use will collapse. Okay, just think about it from that. I'm sharing my perspective, and so yeah, I think young Black Americans may look like a problem, but they're only a problem to injustice. If you look at it, they're only a problem if you want to enforce injustice, hypocrisy, and if you want to silence voices of truth, voices of reason. And maybe that's exactly the kind of problem this world is facing right now. And, that is what they're trying to deal with. But I still believe people need to really ask questions. What's happening? It's not about being pro this side or pro the other side. It's about humanity. It's about morality. It's about justice. It's about fairness. I mean, if we are to share the plight of people, that's what is taking place in places like the Democratic Republic of Congo, for example, in Africa. You don't have to be African to know that humanity is basic human dignity is deserved by everybody. That the people of the Congo deserve justice. The people of Congo don't deserve to be displaced because of the mineral rich resource that they sit. They live. They live with, and you don't have to come from Sudan. I don't have to come from Sudan to know that what's happening in Sudan is totally not fair. I mean, you just have to be human. It's basic human dignity that people deserve peace, deserve to live and live peacefully. Violence is not part of us. And those that are benefiting from this chaos often are the people who want to silence questions, the people that want to silence voices that arise and ask, is this necessary? Is this sustainable? Is this a good idea? So I mean, I was just also thinking out wide, and I don't know what you think about what is all this about. You can share with me your thoughts. If you have some, if you have any, if you disagree, if you agree, you can leave me a comment in the comment section below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. You can share this video as well. And if you're new to the channel, we always say welcome, thank you for your time, and please subscribe to become a part of us. So we've come to the end of this video, and I'll be definitely happy to see you in the next video.